Guys, a question I get asked a lot is, should I pay off my debt or invest? You know, I keep talking about how you should be saving, investing, and putting money into an emergency fund, and it could get a bit confusing as to what you should do and when you should do it. A rule of thumb is, can you earn more in interest on your investments than your debts are costing you? And that really is the golden guideline there. For instance, if you have $20,000 in credit card debt that you are paying 16% on, well, then you probably should absolutely pay that debt down first. I've talked about in videos how 12% is readily available in the market if you were investing in mutual funds or stocks. But the difference there, obviously, is 4%. Your credit card debt, your high interest debt, is costing you more in interest than what you could make, theoretically, in the market. And so you should focus on paying that debt down first. Okay, well, if that's the rule, then why is it that I say the first thing you should do is establish an emergency fund and sock money away in that when that earns practically nothing? Well, that's a great question. You see, your emergency fund is what keeps, it's what you have to have in order to stop the bleeding, okay? It's what keeps that credit card debt hole from getting deeper and wider on you. It's easy to manage impulse purchases, right? It's easy to curb your spending. It's easy to establish a budget and focus on it and stick to it. What you can't account for is the curveballs that life's going to throw at you. The only thing that you know for sure is that according to Murphy's Law, life is going to throw some curveballs at you, right? And that's what your emergency fund is there for. It's to keep that shit from driving you further into debt. That's what it's there for. Now, a good question to follow that up with is, well, should I wait until all of my debts are paid off before I start investing? And the answer to that question is no. I've done a video on when saving isn't worth it. I'll probably put a link here either at the end or on a tag. But if you owe on a mortgage and your mortgage is only costing you 3% in interest, well, if you can actually make 12% in interest in the market, well, then you would be better off investing in the market than focusing on completely paying off that mortgage. And I realize that flies in the face of some advice that you might receive. Truthfully, guys, the real answer is you've got to make some of these judgment calls for yourself. All I can do is offer some guidelines, okay? But if your mortgage is only costing you 3% and you can stand to make more than that by with stocks or bonds or mutual funds in the market, then that is where I would be putting my money. Likewise, for student loans, most of your student loan debt is right around 4%, maybe 6% tops. Well, you could still make more than that. You can make 12% easily in the market. It's available. I've shown you how. So really, it's a 3-bucket approach, and there's a few judgment calls involved. Your 3 buckets are, you should be dumping money into an emergency fund to keep the bad things at bay, right? You should be slamming towards your debt until you've got your debt under control. The real enemy is high interest debt. That's the real stumbling block. Once you've got the high interest debt dealt with, once you've got it under control, once you've got it manageable and got a plan in place to continue taking care of it, and have established the discipline to follow that through, well, then that's your cue that you should start dumping your money somewhere else, okay? Once you've got your debt under control, you can focus on debt utilization. Now, you may have heard me talk about this before, but in case it's somewhat new to you, debt utilization is simply making sure that your balances, especially on your revolving accounts, are 10% or less of the available credit that you've got. Then you're maximizing that debt. And if all you've got is a few $100s in debt, well then yeah, I would say you've got it under control. That brings me to another clue. Another clue that you should be dumping money into investments is when you have enough saved in your emergency fund to completely pay off, particularly your revolving debt accounts. That's the big clue. Once you have gotten to that point, then that's how you know when it's time to start really investing hard and looking at exploring those other options that you can. Because you're wanting to get to a point where your money is working for you, whether you're working for money at all or not. We've talked about this too. Now, assuming your mortgage and student loans are low interest things, then yeah, once you're down to just them, start dumping some money into a Roth, into an IRA, into whatever you can. Look for maybe even some businesses and whatnot to invest in, okay? And if your mortgage or your student loans are not low interest, if your mortgage or student loans are by any chance 12% or high interest debt, then yeah, focus on paying them down. At least until you can get to the point where maybe you can refinance them. That's where that debt utilization and building your credit would come into play. Now guys, each situation is going to be different. But the 3-bucket approach to your money and finances, that is definitely going to help set you free. You've got to use your own gift of discernment to judge which of those buckets gets the lion's share, but all of them should be working for you at any given time. At the very least, if you get a company match through work or whatever, well, then that's going to have to be what your investment bucket consists of. Max out to that company match, take the rest of your money, and focus on paying down your debt and building your emergency fund. Then, as the debt comes down, look towards increasing your emergency fund even more, and then socking even more investments away. The average person should be putting roughly 20% of their income towards retirement so that they can stop working at some point. And that gets into the whole theory of retirement is more a number than it is an age. We'll get into that perhaps a little more in yet another video down the line. I feel like I've made a good portion of my point with you right now. As much as you can, pay down your high interest debt. And once you've done that, then you can start focusing on investing. And while both of those are going on, you need to be building your emergency fund. If you've got questions, guys, hit me with them at fustyandfinance@gmail.com. If you want to take me to task on something that I've said, hit me with that in the comments below the video on YouTube.